Hello everybody. In this video what we're going to do is go over some of the things that I briefly touched on in the previous video on the UI layout in Unity. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So I have my project open, and for the most part in our class, in our project, we're going to use this UI and then pretty much pick things that are in here to get us going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select an image, and notice how it opens up to this, and then hello everybody. In this video what we're going to do is go over the UI and the layout of our first project, and I briefly touched it in the previous video, but in this video we're going to just showcase it a little bit more, and this is going to help you with your lab 3 that's going to be due in the following week. So in our project I already have Unity open, and I'm going to go to UI and add an image, and this is something that we typically do. We've been done for a couple times already, so should be hopefully pretty comfortable with adding a canvas and an image and understanding what this is. And notice how this box is not filling the whole screen. Now one way to do that is to go up to the top left right over here and selecting this item right here, and what that is, like the transform tool, where you could just then go like this. Now that's great, but it's not as efficient as going into the actual object under where it says Rect Transform, and then really clicking on this and looking at all these options right here, right? So notice how right here it says Shift also sets pivot, Alt also sets position. So if you do Shift and then Alt, you notice how all of these options change. So if you want to do a full screen, you can fill up the whole screen. If you click here, you could have the bottom, middle, top. Even if you wanted to do it in like thirds, you could even have it in the center and then to the right, so there's a lot of options that you can pick. We're gonna just do this one as the background, so I'm just gonna keep it white and keep it completely stretched. So now in this hierarchy, we're gonna just add another UI object, and this time I'm going to add a button, and the button's here in the middle. And notice how the button also has a Rect Transform. So all these elements that are under UI are going to give you this ability to really play around with this. So if I zoom back in, you'll be able to say, hey, I want my button to be at the bottom, and it fills the whole bottom. I could have it in the middle, like this way, however you want it. If I want it to be in the top left corner, so have it kind of right here in my game, you could even do that. So based on how your layout is for your game and everything, you could kind of move these objects around, and this kind of gives you a better way of understanding how to move something and be perfectly centered or aligned properly. Now you don't necessarily have to always do that, but an important thing to know is when you're in here doing the presets and everything, when you hold down Shift, you get these blue dots. So here, let me zoom back in. You get the blue dots. So if I click on this middle one, you're gonna see over here a change where you're gonna see the blue dot, this little anchor. This is for the reference point and where it's located. And notice how it's now changed, and then it could go all the way to the right. Now, what does that really mean? If you look right up here in this area, you're gonna see that it's at 0 y and minus 732. And the reason why that's saying that is because we decided to pick the top right, which is here, but we want a button all the way here, right? So in terms of X, anything to the right of this point is positive, anything to the left of it is negative. So it's important to know where you want to put things, right? So it's like, oh, I want to actually put it all the way to the left, and then there we go, and just have it set up that way. You could get it where it's at 0, 0. That way now if you're saying, hey, I want to change this to 400, it's going to move, and it's going to move with knowing 0, 0s all the way to the left. Now this is useful when you're building a mobile game because everything can get resized, and once you set a reference point to an edge, then based on the screen size, you know how much in it goes, right? So these are some of the tools and tricks that we all use when we're laying everything out, but this should help with understanding how a lot of this stuff works. And then, it doesn't necessarily always have to be the top right when you end up placing your item. Like it could be like 200, but notice how it's like, oh wait, what the heck, 200 made it go up. Well, that's because the Y, this is set to 0, 0, right? So X is Y positive here, negative, and then Y is positive and negative. So if you really wanted to do like down here and have this as the point, then you would actually click in here, go back and select the bottom left of your button. And now when you move it, I could say, hey, I want to go 300. And then now any positive Y will make it move up, right? So really understanding how the X and Y and how you could actually anchor it is important when you're laying out your files and objects in your game. And so going into here, you could change your text, and we've gone through this before. Click me, right? And change your size here and everything. Now, when you go back to the button, this is where you would put your image in. I would probably suggest you using the button object for anything that is clickable that maybe goes to the next round or anything like that. That way then you could use all this functionality that's already given to you. You can create your own. However, I feel that it's kind of counterintuitive. It's like recreating the wheel. But if you want to do it another way, feel free. But this is going to be so much easier for you guys. Okay. Now, other things that you can add while you're in here, go UI. You could even say, hey, I want to put a toggle in. And let's see. Let me move this over. So we got a toggle. And what the heck's a toggle? If you look, it's like this little checkbox. Let me hit play. You might be able to see it clear right here. Well, on and off type of item. Now if you click on the toggle, you could actually in the hierarchy go to the background. You could say, oh, this is a check mark set up. You could change it. You could change the background. If you go to the root, you could change what it's highlighted, what it's not, and is it on, is it off. If I click off and I put this, notice how it's not clicked, and then I could click it and notice how this got checked, right? So there's a lot of cool things that you can implement in laying out how some of this stuff works. So, keep an eye on just what the inspector gives you, and everything is hopefully you've used it before in games that you've played or in apps and things like that, like a drop down, which would let you give you options. It's like, oh, how do I create my options? Well, down here, it gives you option A, option B, option C. You could put in an image, you could click add, and it'll be like, oh, okay, add another option, right? So, if you wanted to create a drop-down option for some of these things, you can start putting this stuff here. Now, you still need to be able to add a script and do something with what you select, but for the most part, these are some of the tools you can use in the UI aspect. Okay. Now, another thing in UI is you could have more than one canvas. You could put a canvas on top of a canvas. You could have them grouped separately. Now, for the most part, you usually work in, I would say, one canvas, but you can use multiple canvases. It's just really up to you when you lay your levels out. And so this is just a little bit of understanding what you can bring in, how you can kind of lay it out. The important thing that this video is about is just more understanding the Rect Transform and how to utilize these pivots to make your life a little bit easier when you're making your first game.